Thank you. I've divided this session into 5 sections: the introduction, purpose of this virtual forum, the current funding situation, taking advantage of the current situation, and questions and feedback on whatever your thoughts might be. I hope to go through them as fast as I can so that I can leave time for your questions and feedback. If I'm going too fast or you don't understand anything I have said, please ask me to repeat myself. Next slide, please, Dave. Thank you. For the benefit of anyone new, I'd like to do a quick introduction of what One Walsall is and what we do. One Walsall is the voice of the voluntary sector in Walsall. We support local not-for-profit organizations. Our purpose is to support a strong and vibrant BCSC sector. Our vision is for Walsall communities to have access to that vibrant BCSC sector. Next slide, please, Dave. Thank you. To achieve this aim for a vibrant BCSC sector, we offer services that provide information and support, networking opportunities, funding advice, and access to volunteering so that organizations can develop their activities, connect with partners and opportunities, promote their impacts, influence local decisions, as well as many other forms of community actions they may want to get involved in. One Walsall didn't always have a funding officer. The position was created out of necessity and recently, and I feel honored to be the first. My name is Lighton and it's pronounced light on. My job is to contribute towards One Walsall's objectives by helping you and your organizations access funding. Normally, I'll be supporting the application process, searching for opportunities, and providing an independent overview of your application. But during the current situation, One Walsall, myself included, will dedicate as much resources to support your access to funding, even if it means more support with bid writing. What it means is more hand-holding services from me. I can now basically talk applicants through an application over the phone, if they prefer. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the process I'm working with currently is I get a notification from the development team about an organization needing support. Then I contact the organization and ask them to fill a questionnaire. I then send them grants that fit their needs based on the questionnaire they filled out. I provide support until grants have been received. And that's pretty much it. My approach is to send as many grants as possible. This way, the more you apply to, the better your chances of getting funds. While this can be daunting for applicants, I urge you to forge through. It only increases your chances. Currently, this is what I have been doing with many of the funding requests I've received. However, only a very small percentage of applicants have actually gotten back to me to say they have applied. So if this process is not going to work for you, the process that I've put up here, I'll be happy to hear how you would prefer for us to work together. You can do that when we stop for questions, or you can send me an email at my address as seen on the screen. Now, the purpose of this virtual forum. This is a 2-part program. The overall results we aim to achieve is to get organizations thinking more about where you want to be in the future, if COVID brings a long-term change to your business as usual. Where you are now with your business model, if any changes may have to be made in line with what you have for your future. What resources do you need for any changes, funding or otherwise? Where One Walsall can potentially provide support for those changes and accessing funding to keep organizations afloat at the present. Points 1 to 5 will be addressed by Amy Sanders at the next forum, which is tomorrow. But today, I'll be addressing point 6, which covers how to make a successful application to funders during COVID. A successful application is defined by me, really, as convincing funders that your organization is worth their time and money. A survey carried out by PBE showed 16% of smaller charities with an income of under £500,000 were more fearful of closure over the next 6 months, compared to 3% of large charities. This is the current funding situation as it is. When asked what more could be done to help charities during the survey, respondents called for funding to be easier to access. One of the charities said, funders just need to realize that smaller organizations are as important as businesses, and they need to make their grants easier to apply to their circumstances. And said, we need more money, more certainty, less hoops to jump through. The reduction of following scheme is a nightmare. When asked to rate the sufficiency of the government's financial support in the face of COVID-19, where 1 is entirely insufficient and 10 is entirely sufficient, the average score was 4.4, meaning just 1 in 5 organizations like yours have sought government support. And I think we can all relate to this in one way or the other. I know that I have had to deal with organizations that are having issues, that kind of issues. I do not know if there would ever be less hoops to jump or grants will ever be easier to apply for, but I can advise that organizations do not wait for funders to make things easier. There is some good news, because funders like the National Lottery have become more flexible with their rules to encourage more applications coming in, and we will discuss that in the next slide. Next slide, please. So we would like to discuss now how to take advantage of the current situation, and I will be introducing Ellis Turner to speak on behalf of Heritage Fund. Ellis, is Ellis in?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Hi, Ellis.
So I'm from one of the 5 National Lottery funders. There's various different ones. There's the Community Fund, which is probably the one you're most familiar with. We're from the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Me and my colleague Jackie are your local contacts for Walsall. There's also the Arts Council, Sports England, and the British Film Institute. All the lottery funders right now are really focusing their efforts on making sure that your organisations survive. So, for example, we are currently closed. The Heritage Fund are closed for new project funding. We are solely supporting organisations that we funded previously, making sure that they survive through these 3 to 6 months. What I would like to say is sort of top tips for funding is do have a look at the application guidance that's on our website. So say, for example, if you wanted to come to us, you need to check, have we actually funded you before? And sadly, at the moment, if we haven't, we don't have any funding available at the moment. But then once you have checked the guidance, do feel free to get in touch with funders. You know, I'm always, and my colleague Jackie are always happy to chat through the application process with any groups from Walsall who think they're eligible to apply.
Thank you, Alice. I don't know if we should start taking questions. Does anyone have questions for Alice, or maybe we should wait to the end?
Hi, Alice. Just a quick one from me. We actually started a heritage application before COVID back in January, and we stopped for a little bit because we had other projects on the go. We didn't submit that application, but it is related to, it's not a COVID related project, but it's a very much a community based project. It was actually documenting the heritage of the butts in Walsall. And what we're quite concerned about is we're losing some elderly people from our area, unfortunately. So some of that heritage is being lost just through the issues that are going on. When do you think you'll be ready for us to submit our application?
So the very short answer is that we don't know. We're very much responding to the crisis as it develops. All the details on our website, heritagefund.org.uk. We don't envision being open for new projects until October at the earliest. We're thinking now in October, all our resources are going to be focused on our emergency funding for those organisations that are in real financial difficulty, particularly those that look after heritage or do heritage activities and have lost all their income because they're no longer open.
Yeah.
So saying it sounds a really fascinating project, and I totally understand what you mean, that, you know, we want to get these memories captured. So hopefully come after October we can pick up that conversation.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Alice.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Alice before I move on? Just waiting for anyone to unmute. Okay, moving on then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. I mentioned earlier about the National Lottery becoming more flexible. This is because National Lottery can now fund core costs of organizations for the next 6 months. And I think this might come as a good news to many organizations, because most of the requests I've received is about core costs. The National Lottery have provided a list of top tips for applying for funding during the current crisis. We will circulate this after the meeting. If your email address is definitely with us, you should be getting the top tips. Also, the Heart of England still gives funding for up to 3,000 for COVID projects. While I know that a lot of organizations, when I keep saying people, I think I'm referring to organizations as well. I'm aware that not every organization is after running costs, even though many are. If your organization is working on just projects that relate to COVID, the Heart of England is still giving funding. You can apply to them and a few others out there as well, because I am aware that there can be a bit of a wait sometimes during a period as busy as this. And well, if you're working on a project, but you're not sure of the project or if your organization is eligible, please ask. I will find out if I don't know. Do not just assume it won't be eligible. And if it turns out that you're not eligible for this one, then my job is to find one for you, or even a few, which you would be eligible for. I think that would be the main takeout from this. Don't assume that you would not be eligible for something. Speak to someone, speak to me about it. Can you move to the next one, please? Thank you. I just realised.
Can I just add in something on Heart of England? There actually is a new funding pot called Doing Things Differently, which has just been released, and that's for grants between 3,000 and 20,000.
When is this launching?
I'm looking at it because I'm looking at what I've got to do to apply now.
When was this? Because I was on the website yesterday. Things differently?
Yeah, it's on there today, called Doing Things Differently.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for that.
Hi, Lata. Sorry to interrupt. It's Jackie Lee from the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Could I just clarify that the information you've just been explaining about the National Lottery, I think is probably the Community Fund?
Okay. Sorry.
They're different.
That was what I meant.
Yeah, it's just there's 5 different funders, and we're all running kind of support programs for COVID, but they do have separate criteria. So just to kind of make clear that the information you're talking about is, I think, probably from the Community Fund.
Thank you for that, Jackie. I really should have specified. I think that was just me trying to cut time.
That's
National
fine.
Lottery Community Fund. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more comments before I move on? All right. So I think another one is Children in Need, having paused their small and mid grant programs to launch 2 new COVID-19 response grants. I was on the website as of this morning just to check, because one was supposed to have launched on Monday, the COVID-19 2020 booster grant, but this would only be open to existing grant holders. But it still hasn't launched, except I'm looking at the wrong places, but I have been this morning to check. And then another one would be launching on the 8th of June, a larger grant, which is up to £80,000 over an 18-month period. So what to take from this is, if you are an existing grant holder or children in need, keep looking at the website so you can apply for that if need be. Can you move on to the next slide, please, Dave? Okay, so still on taking advantage of the current funding situation. Here are a few tips from me. Be competitive, be open-minded, be creative, be persistent, apply for as many grants as you're eligible for. This is a personal favorite of mine. Contact me as often as needed. Have a sustainable business model and sound business plan. Apply for grants as soon as possible. In reference to that last point, and apologies here if I am saying things that are very obvious, I'm not trying to teach anyone how to suck eggs. I think by now, most of our non-for-profits have a general idea of how long their reserves will last for. Maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe more, maybe less. Or rather than wait for reserves to be near empty before replying, it is important that you act now. And this is for 2 reasons. This is because, 1, funders run out of funds. The funding opportunity can be open today and then oversubscribed by tomorrow. I have seen it happen a lot, and I know you have too. The second reason is, if you have access that, if you've assessed that you have 2 months worth of finances left, and then your chosen funder needs 4 months to process your application, then that will not be a good position for you to be in. So that's why it's better to act now. So moving on to the don'ts. Please do not be daunted, and I think this is like my 3rd time mentioning this. Do not be daunted by the amount of forms you have to fill in. It is a necessary part of the process. Always apply to as many grants as you're eligible for. At the same time, avoid wasting time on an application process by reading the key criteria and eligibility to rule out funding opportunities you have no chance of getting. If the funding link was sent by me after you have filled out a questionnaire, I would have checked the grants first to be sure you're eligible before sending them to you. Well, you would always know your organization more than I do. And it is possible we disagree on eligibility, and that's fine. I'll give you an example of what I mean. If you check the grant and an eligibility criteria says registered charities only, and you're not a registered charity, then your chances of getting the funds are low. Don't waste your time applying. Compared to an eligibility criteria for a grant that says that they're supporting human rights, but your organization provides activities for people with learning disabilities. It is not quite 100% match with human rights, but there is a chance of a successful application, and those chances can be increased if you can get creative with your application and your narrative. And I'm saying this because I know this, because I've worked for big funders and I have sat on panels that decide who gets funding. Many times it's about fitting your narrative to your funder's objectives. Next slide, please. Thank you. It's a challenging period we are in now. No one knows how long for, but maybe this is an opportunity to do more for your organization. And this might be worth considering if you want to extend your services or repurpose them to fix the current situation. And we have agencies like Barrow Cadbury Trust, who I met for the first time at the West Midland Funders meeting I attended last week. They're now offering services just for organizations considering this. You could also use our website. There's a useful links web page, and we have our social media updates containing funding news. Can you move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is time for questions and feedback from you. I've done enough talking. Thank you very much.
I think, hi, thanks, Lighton. I think something I'd just like to add here, it's Dee from One Walsall, obviously. The reason we wanted to put this on today is we recognise that funding streams are coming out all the time. Bev, thanks for that information on the Heart of England Fund, and the landscape is changing all the time. But what we've also seen is funds that we've publicised, such as the money coming via Mind for bids up to 50k. That we had 24 hours notice that it was closing early because it had been absolutely inundated with applications. So I think it's just to repeat Lighton's message that you know, if you see a pot of funding that you think you're eligible for and you can go for, have that conversation with Lighton or other members of our team. We will support you as much as possible to get those bids in a timely and effective way. As I said, we don't usually handhold people through the bid writing process, but at this time we're quite happy to put pen to paper and support you with the actual bid writing, as long as you're happy for us to do that, to enable you to meet some of these critical deadlines. And even if you see a deadline which is further off and you think, oh, I've got a bit of time for that, then if they are so heavily oversubscribed as they have been, then they may cut off that closing date earlier than expected. So it's just saying that, you know, Lighton has said repeatedly through this presentation, we're here to support as much as you need with the resources that we have. And so make use of us as and when you need to, and think about what you can do now, what you can do looking at your services post-lockdown, and also what you absolutely need in terms of your financial cash flow at this particular moment. Does anyone have any other questions? All been very quiet. Thanks.
just me. Hi, Lighton. It's Rena from a charity called Heart Care. Lighton, how was it again that we get in touch with you? Is it via the development officers, or can we?
No, my email address was on the. I'll add my email address again. It was on the slide before, but I'll just add it again. I'll add it on the chat.
We don't have to go by the development officers.
Oh, there it was. There. Never mind. No, it was on the slide. Keep going down. Next one. There it is. I'll add it to the chat as well.
I've just done that.
Oh, thank you. It's not up. Oh, there it is. My email address is right on there. Thank you, Rina.
Okay, thank you. I'll save the chat.
You can also contact us on the usual One Walsall telephone number, the 01922 619840 number. Julie is manning that phone. It's been diverted to a mobile, and if you ring that, she'll get a message to any of the team, to include Lighton.
Can I just say something, Lighton, is that we're still waiting for news from the National Lottery Community Fund, because if you remember, the Chancellor announced 750 million for the charitable sector on the 8th of April. And we're still waiting to hear what that means, because they did promise 370 million for smaller charitable groups. So, and I suspect that funding, when it does come out, will be really competitive, and everybody will be going for it. I think what we're waiting for clarification of what the criteria will be, whether it's going to be, as Leighton talked about earlier, more around sustainability and core services, or whether it will be more addressed to addressing issues around COVID-19. But I think organisations who are potentially thinking about funding, you need to be thinking about the kind of things you need to be addressing now, because when that funding does become available, it's going to be very competitive. And as Dee's mentioned, it may be that it might be available until it runs out. And just promoting that the forum we've got tomorrow, we've got a similar forum tomorrow that's going to be hosted by Amy. And this is very much about thinking about the things that you need to have in your mind about your longer term sustainability. I think it's recognising that the current changes we've seen around COVID may well be with us for several months, if not indefinitely. And if that means that the way your organisation has done business in the past is going to change, then I think you have to be assume that, yeah, if you want to continue, if you want to survive, you're going to have to change, and maybe business as usual will not exist for lots of groups. So Amy's going to go through some of the things that you need to think about as sort of management teams, trustees, about how your organisation goes forward, and that will obviously then inform the kind of funding that you might need to make those changes. So I would recommend, if you haven't already booked on tomorrow, if you get the email that was sent out to invite you to this meeting, the link for tomorrow's meeting's there as well. But I think this is to my mind, there's lots of money out there at the moment. It's not always quite clear what everybody's trying to get at, but I think organisations need to think beyond the here and now, because you might be all right at the moment, but if this continues and lockdown in some shape or form continues for 6 months, 12 months, what will that mean for your organisation at that stage? And I suppose if you need to address things and change things, better to do it now than wait, as Leighton said, till you've got 2 months worth of reserves left and it takes 4 months to get a bid through, in which case it's likely that your organisation will close. And we've seen that in the past in Walsall, where good organisations delivering really impactful services have failed and fallen because they didn't recognise the financial issues soon enough and didn't plan ahead. So more than ever now, I think it is about planning ahead.
Thank you, Dave. And I think not to steal Amy's thunder in the form that she's doing, but we wanted to hold the funding meeting first because it does link in very well to the work that Amy's going to be doing tomorrow in her virtual forum. And again, we're already talking to organisations in relation to what is the impact on your services now, and what are you seeing an increase in some areas of your service delivery, whether it's telephone befriending or areas like that, and what can you envisage might be an increase in your service delivery kind of referrals once we come out of lockdown. And again, a lot of conversations are going on both nationally, regionally and locally regarding mental health across all ages, in terms of the impact that lockdown is having on people and the environments they're living in. And what is it that your services could be delivering potentially now and post-lockdown that could support people with their general mental health. And so it's just thinking about things like this that are affecting everyone in their everyday lives during this just such bizarre period of time, that is really impacting on people, the way they live their lives, and what's going to happen once they start living more normally again. And it's thinking about how your services could maybe be repurposed, redirected, or just revamped slightly in order to meet some of those new demands that will be coming through. And again, with my old original hat on at One Walsall, in terms of being a partnership manager, is there ways that you could be looking to work with other organisations to think about collaborative working, more formal partnership working, in order to reach a wider audience in terms of the service users you're thinking of supporting, and what a bid might look like in relation to that. And again, the sooner you start having those conversations with like-minded organisations, that again, if you have an idea and you're not sure who to contact, we can act as that kind of go-between, that mediator between various organisations to have that conversation in terms of, you know, potential partners that might lead to a bid that has wider outreach and therefore would hopefully look more attractive to funders. Does anyone have any other comments or questions? I think everyone's been very generous in saying that they're all happy to share their information and their contact details, which is great. We'll take it as read that unless you specifically put up on the chat that you don't want your contact details to be shared, then we will be happy to share everyone. So please let us know if you're not happy for us to share your details, and we'll obviously respect that request. Okay. Has someone got a bird in the background, or is it?
I'm beginning to think it's me.
Oh, okay.
It's my alarm chirping. I think it needs a battery changing.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's okay.
Can you imagine? It's been fine all along, and now I have a meeting. It decides to let me know it needs battery changing.
Of course, it's typical. It's absolutely typical. What? Oh, Jeff, you've got your hand up. Do you want to come off mute, Jeff?
Is that better?
That's fine. Thank you.
Has anyone given any consideration to partnership bidding, and would the funders be would they welcome partnership bids?
I think based on what I was just saying, there are some organisations that are looking to potentially work in partnership. One may be the lead, one may be, you know, the delivery partners underneath that kind of thing, and that could potentially work very well. But I don't know whether there's anyone in the virtual room who's considered that already. I'm
not sure exactly if this falls under partnership bidding, but I know that out of the 750 million pounds grant by the government, the 16 million that was allocated for food charities was some of it was through Fair Share and RAP, and Fair Share is sort of advocating for some sort of partnership with other food charities. So I'm not sure if you would quite put that in the same category as partnership, but it seems like that to me. So like, on their website, they've actually said that if you're a charity and looking to work with them to provide food, you could contact them.
Fantastic, yeah.
I'm just thinking, is there any opportunities for people, you know, whilst all this money's diminishing, whether there's any opportunity to kind of share overheads and share offices and just adapt to the new normal? Are there any opportunities there?
We can look into it.
I think the point on that, Jeff, is absolutely, and I think that'll come out more in Amy's forum, because we're certainly in conversations potentially with organisations that may want to share office space once we come out of lockdown, that kind of thing. And actually, will any of us be looking to have the same level of office space that we currently do? Now we know how well we can work remotely. So I think those are kind of, absolutely, Jeff, really good point. Those are the kind of things we can all be thinking about now in terms of, you know, what we're going to look like coming out of lockdown. And, you know, again, don't want to spoil Amy's thunder. So please log on to the meeting. I think it's tomorrow afternoon if you can. It is tomorrow afternoon, isn't it? Yeah.
It is at 2 o'clock.
Yeah. So yeah.
Leighton.
Hi, Rena.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, so far all I've done is apply to like these emergency funders, trying to sort of fit ourselves into sort of like sort of COVID emergency services, but I haven't applied to any sort of like regional funders. And I'm just wondering, are they still around? Are they meeting? You know, or have some of them like closed? They're
that pretty much answers the question. Yes, some of them have closed in favor of, or I wouldn't call it closed. A lot of them have been oversubscribed and closed, yes. Some of them have been suspended to continue COVID ones only. But again, you would never know until you actually try to apply, which is pretty much what I do. Take all the details you give me and then search, and then whatever comes back, comes back.
And again, Rena, the information that Bev gave out earlier regarding the Heart of England Fund, we can look that up and distribute that after this and send it around to everyone.
What about like all the sort of supermarkets, you know, like all the Tesco's, and because are they still suspended?
I'm sorry, there was a break there and I thought you'd start talking.
Yeah, no, it's just all the supermarkets, like, you know, all their foundations and everything, you know. Do you know any more on that? Tesco
has definitely stopped for this region because, again, oversubscribed. Not sure on Co-op, but Tesco has stopped, definitely, for Walsall and Birmingham area.
Can you think of any other easy ones that we can apply for?
Heart of England.
Some of these
Sorry,
forms are
I'm sorry. Heart of England is the only one I can think of right now.
yeah.
Which is
No, because some of these forms, I don't know about everyone else, they're so hard, and you just like, you sit there, you think, how can I word it so that, you know, they'll get it, and then you got word restrictions and everything, and I'm just going out my mind.
Byron's Davenport, I think they're still giving as well.
I think just being conscious of time here, Rena, if you wanted a private conversation with Lighton, I think that would be really helpful, because again, we can support with those applications and we'll be more than happy to draft something for you. Obviously, you need to be happy with it and have oversight and final say so on it. But sometimes you can almost get like snow blindness looking at all these forms, that actually it's easier for someone coming in with a bit of an independent eye to put some words together for you, and also critically know the kind of language that should be used, being familiar with the funders, that kind of thing. So again, just being really conscious of time now. Lighton, thank you so much. That was really useful. And your first presentation, so well done. Well done. As still a fairly new member of staff, so that was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
As we said earlier, we have recorded this and we will make the recordings available. Amy's virtual forum, as you've heard repeatedly, is tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, which will go over some of the questions that also came up today. You've got Lighton's contact details, you've got our telephone number, which is still in operation. So I think it's just time for us to say goodbye, and thank you very much for attending. I hope you find it useful. Take care all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lighton. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Bye.
Can I just say there is a Mid Counties one? It's the Community Restart Fund.
Okay.
And it's http://mid.coop/restart fund. And I think that's a new one that's been launched this week.
Oh, thank you.
It's on their Facebook page if you search for Mid Counties Cooperative.
Bev, there's also one that's come up today. Are you still there, Bev? Yeah.
Yeah.
And one that I found today, I don't know if it's new, but it's more grants for older people. I think it's through Independent Age. I think their grants are like 5,000 to 10,000, 5,000 to 15,000, something like that. Have a look at that.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Amy.
Okay.
I'm sorry I can't make yours tomorrow, but I hope it goes well.
I'll send you the notes, Bev. I'll send you the notes.
That'll be great.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. I'm just leaving it open a little bit for feedback. So.